What's going on, everybody? My name is Brandon. This is Potty Sports, your spot for uncensored and unfiltered sports opinions. Today is a big day. We've been waiting on this for a couple of weeks now. We got Ryan and we got Jordan in here as well, kind of hosting this thing with me, I guess. I don't know. It's a whole team. You know the tandem already. But we got Chris Caulk, wide receiver from USC, joining us today. He's going to give kind of a little background on everything he's been through his college experience, college football, and everything. And then at the end, we're just going to kind of shoot the shit and see where Chris is standing on some of the big things in sports. Chris, how you doing today, bud?
I'm awesome. Thank you guys for having me. I really appreciate it.
No worries, no worries. So it's gonna be like kind of a Barbara Walters intro, I guess. But who is Chris Caulk? Tell people tell people a little about yourself.
I recently just graduated from SC. I played football for 2 years. Obviously, that's why I'm on the call with you guys today. But no, I mean, my story to get to SC was pretty wild. I mean, I've spoken on it a few times, but to make a longer story kind of short, we can go in like my senior year of high school. I tore my ACL, and that was the first year I'd ever played organized like real tackle football. I was always a baseball guy, and for some reason, through all like the shit that people threw at me for wanting to like make SC and play after I tore my ACL, that kind of like drove me to really, really get to that and accomplish that goal. And as that continually like developed and came that way, like I found my faith through that, and there's a lot of amazing kind of stories about work ethic and this determination, resilience going through having been all through the adversity that I went to get through there. And that, it's just the culmination came on that one day where I just got the text from the guy after my tryout said I made the team. And I'll tell you what, it was one of the best days of my life.
That's awesome, man. That's awesome.
So,
So you pulled your ACL and then you got invited to come on. Like how did that all go through?
Yeah, for sure. So it sound like I made it sound much like shorter and linear than it actually was. And what I mean by that is I tore my ACL on like in my first game, in my first high school game in August of 2015.
Wow.
And so I was like going into like my last year at my high school, and I tore my ACL in the very first game. And I'll tell you what, it was like that game prior to that, I had so much fun playing. I was playing defensive end, getting reps at receiver. It was a fucking blast.
That's sick.
And so as that happened, I didn't know what to think. Like I was so new to the whole football conversation about in just about every aspect that I didn't even think an ACL was that big of a deal. Like all right, maybe I'll I'm 18. I'll try and rehab this thing over the next like 4 months, get back for senior night, maybe for playoffs, But that's not how ACLs work.
No.
But I suited up on senior night in like November. So I had like 4 months of like, okay, rehab under my belt. And then what do you know, like the third or fourth route that I run, I like fully tear my ACL. Like what was partially healed with scar tissue just went. And then I tore my meniscus too. But over that next it actually ended up being about 2.5 or 3 years until I got accepted to USC, because I went to 3 junior colleges in 2 years right after that. Because I got denied by SC right out of high school after my first year at Santa Monica, which is a junior college out there in LA. And after I appealed that denial, they said no again, and I had to apply one more time. That was like last shot. So I didn't get accepted until SC until like June or July of 2018. I think it was end of June 2018. So it was like a pretty long time since I tore my ACL. But over that time, I actually went from where I was having no shot of playing receiver at USC and developed myself into where I would inevitably be in the best position that I could to get an opportunity. And that opportunity was very elusive right off the bat. Everyone wants to play football at USC. If you ask any person in the country playing like a high enough quality or even like 8-man football, whatever school you want to call it,
Yep.
I'm sure that if USC came knocking at the door, they'd be like, unless you're like the top recruit in the country and you're choosing Bama over USC, but still USC is generally in everyone's top 5.
Oh yeah, Trojans.
So, you know, it's one of those things where everybody wanted to do that. And I had to have that mindset and that work ethic of trying to think to myself, like, everybody wants this. Mm-hmm. There isn't a soul that wouldn't want this. Like, and there are kids who are bigger programs than I was, who had played football since they were like 5 years old. And I just knew I needed to bridge that gap as fucking quickly as possible. So over those 3 years, I didn't get really, really, really serious until I cut drinking, and kind of cut partying too. And because prior to that, I was like going out a whole bunch. But I just got to the point where I'm like, all right, what's going to get me to where I need to go? And that, what got me there was work ethic, ambition, goals, and being the one who's crazy enough to actually think that they could do it. Yeah. But, you know, but to dive a little deeper into that, like countless hours working out in the gym, eating what you need to eat, you know, like I would happen to be very blessed because my mom, prior to her current job, which is a private chef for a really cool family in La Jolla, she was in restaurants, but as she like transitioned into being a private chef, that worked out. That was a divinely ordained thing, and glory to God for that, because it worked out great because she was always cooking all this awesome food. And it just so happened that I was trying to develop athletically, and diet's a huge part of that. So it worked out great with that. And then just working with my receiver coach, whom I found, shout out to Brett Swain in San Diego, a shameless plug for sure, but nevertheless, but yeah, I owe a lot to him for sure. But yeah, I would just just all the kind of shit that you hear about of being just absolutely focused and relentless about trying to accomplish a goal, multiply that by 10, and that's what it was. Because it was one of those goals I've had since I was like 2 or 3 years old, wanting to play at USC or go to USC. I originally wanted to play baseball, but football at USC, I remember dressing up as like Reggie Bush for Halloween and Matt Lyon for Halloween, you know? So it's a tradition that runs really, really deep. And it's one of those things where if people tell you no, you just gotta tell them to fuck off and then kind of go after what you want. Absolutely. And that's one thing that, that's one thing I'm trying to impart on this kind of podcast circuit, so to speak, that I've been on, is because I feel like I've gotten really clear on one of my purposes in life is to try and help people who have gone through some adversity, who's like friends, so to speak. You do lose a lot of friends when you get really, really serious about what you want. Whose friends are the ones who are actually talking shit about them, and the ones who are like doubting them and all that kind of stuff. And all those kind of things make up a really amazing story if you can accomplish what you want. And I really believe that there isn't a thing in this world that you can't do when you put your mind to something, and if you're willing to put in the work to get there. Yeah, so that's kind of what I'm trying to impart.
You just gotta like tunnel vision it, man. Like I didn't know that there was that much like sacrifice, and well, not sacrifice necessarily, but obstacles in your path and in your journey as well, bro. It's just literally like every time you just kept getting up, you just kept getting knocked down. But the fact that you just keep getting back up and fighting is motivating to everybody listening, and just shows like your true character.
I appreciate that. And like, that's something that I hope people see in me. And I go back and forth on this line because a lot more happened in those 2.5 years than I'm really almost ready to say. Like a lot, I've been on a lot of interviews in the last probably like month or two.
Yeah.
And then I get asked this kind of question a lot, and I always debate so like internally, because I think to myself, like, there's so much more that happened to me in the course of those 2.5 years. But if I do go completely just like unfiltered and just kind of let everything loose, like I just don't know, like if I'm at that point where I'm just going to be like, all right, time to go. I feel like there's going to be a better time in my plan. My God will let me know when that time is, but yeah, it's one of those things where even unfiltered, I feel like there's a lot of value that I could try and help people with, it's just the aspect of like putting your nose to the grindstone, getting after what you want.
Yeah.
So wait, you said you had to appeal SC, right? Because they rejected you the first time. You said you had to appeal them.
Yeah. So I applied to SC obviously as a senior out of high school. I did fine in high school up until like academics was the most important part of really my life at for the first 3 years of high school. I was all about
Absolutely.
school. Yeah, I was a huge nerd. Like I wore the sweater vest and all that shit. And no, yeah, seriously. And I was focused on baseball and academics that there was no other like ancillary part of my life that I really else like focused on. Like, and it wasn't until I got cut by that baseball team at Cathedral, which is the high school I went to, my junior year, that my world kind of got upended in that regard. Because, you know, it was like the plan, baseball all the way until ride that bitch till it comes off.
Yep.
But I didn't think that the wheels would come off so early. But,
Yeah.
you know, but
Now, was there a plan B, or was SC always plan B was plan A, SC was all the way through?
It's funny you say that, because I had met with college counselors, and my college counselor, like, she said, Chris, you would need to get realistic about USC. You're not going there. Like, she basically said that in so many words. And I was on a interview like a few weeks ago, and it talked, like, I brought out like a note, the note sheet on your phone of all the shit that people said to me. I wrote a lot of it down. And they said, you need to get really, really clear about where you want to go, because you need to be realistic about your USC expectations. But the thing is, dude, like, even when I was applying to other schools at a JUCO, I just couldn't get myself to do it. Yeah. I couldn't get myself to actually give up on a goal. Like, it's something that I held so near and dear since I was so young. And it's just one of those things that, even I got accepted to some other schools that all the other schools that I applied to out of JUCO, I was like, I could write my ticket anywhere. I got like a 4.0. So it was just, you know, so it was one of those deals where I couldn't actually stomach the idea of, one, going somewhere other than SC, and two, knowing that I punted on one of the biggest goals in my life. I couldn't have done that. Like, and there were times where I thought to myself, like, okay, maybe God's leading me down this way, so that way something else would happen, go somewhere else, go to University of Texas, go to wherever it was, you know? But I just couldn't. I just thought to myself, I'm like, shit, I really can't give it up. I just cannot do it. So, but to answer your original question about getting denied out of like, I think it was Ryan who asked me that. Yeah. So it was like right after that, I got denied senior year. Then my first year at JUCO, I take full responsibility for this. Obviously, not crossing my T's and dotting my I's, but I got some bum advice from my counselor. You know, I'm not going to go deeply into that.
No. Obviously,
because at the end of the day, it's still my fault. I still fucked up. Okay. Because like, if you take the idea of extreme ownership and just kind of put it in your own life, at the end of the day, the only person who's responsible is you. Yeah. Like, you can listen to other people, but if you don't have your shit together, like, it's at the end of the day, it's your fault. Yeah. But then after that, I obviously appealed back. So I'm like, I had a good enough GPA. I was going to do what I needed to do, but they still said no, because, you know, they didn't think I was like, I didn't have a certain requirement or whatever it was. But, you know, a lot of people probably would have quit at that point. They would have phoned it in, gone to a smaller school, and then maybe not have played sports. But I just knew that I had a lot more in the tank, and I do credit with my brother for pushing me down that road too, because after that game, I was thinking to myself, like, shit, what do I do? He's like, dude, you can't stop playing football. And I was never going to phone it in, but like, I also I will give credit to where credit is due. And like, my brother was a huge part of that.
It's those Southern California ties growing up in San Diego.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. How was it growing up in Southern California?
You know, Southern California is a really, really beautiful spot, but you know, it's one of those things. I've gotten to the point where like, I spent like a month in San Diego in like June or July. This is because my brother had elbow surgery down there, and we were staying at this hotel. And my brother's like, he's a stud. He's gonna go, like, he's going up to this facility in Seattle like next month, and he's gonna go, and next thing you know, he'll be signed by a pro club. He's a pitcher for baseball, by the way.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, so he'll do that. But he was rehabbing down there, and I was just with him. So I didn't really have anything else to do at that point, because the aspects of where I am now, like, I wasn't really needed in that organization that I'm at that time. But so we were just kind of chilling down there, and it was honestly, I felt so like I went so backwards just being in the place that I grew up. I don't know what it is. Like, I'm not trying to come at like San Diego like that, but because it's a really awesome, beautiful place. But I will say that when I moved up to LA, and when I started playing at SC, and that it just never was the same. San Diego, like I think San Diego is like a place that if you're a very specific individual is really, really perfect for you. Like if you are more laid back, you kind of just kind of go with the flow kind of stuff. You trade. I always say this, and I'm not, this might be a little controversial, but in the interest of unfiltered sports talk, I feel like a lot of people in San Diego trade goals and ambition for good weather.
Wow. and being a big party guy, I know you're Christian, and you said you veered away from the party life. I gotta ask, what was the party scene like up there? Is it hard to stay away from, or how tempting is it?
So prior to my so from the time I was 17, I was going clubbing. I started going clubbing when I was 17, and I was so about it all the time, 17, partying and clubbing every weekend from the time I was 17 up to the time I was 20. And that was the biggest part of my weekend and shit like that. So I was all about that. And I will say this, San Diego is a serious clubbing spot. I will give them credit where credit is due with that, because they've got Omnia down there. They've got Flux, Cake, Park, Bang Bang. Shit, a lot of fucking memories. But yeah, no, I mean, look, at the time it was fun. It was awesome, but I wasn't making any progress towards who I wanted to become. Mm-hmm. And LA is cool too. Don't get me wrong. By the time I got to SC, I was pretty much straight edge. I really I'm straight edge in the sense of I don't drink or anything like that now, but I was for the most part very straight edge at that point. So my clubbing in LA was kind of low key. Yeah. I didn't really do that. But what I will say is that as you kind of rise up in LA, just going to JUCO, everything's kind of there. But once I started got in USC, then I get I'm gonna start playing at USC. It's the city kind of opens up to you, and as you go up that ladder, it becomes more and more fun. It's just on a Friday night, you go to Korean barbecue with your buds. It's kind of opened up in this world. The city's kind of yours. It's really awesome. Obviously it's a very minor expense, but or aspect of it. But people see the SC gear out and holy shit, that's really cool. Come up and talk to you, sometimes take a picture with you. It's really, really fun like that. And I never really got into the clubbing scene up there. That's, by design, but back when I was 17, 18, 19, 20, it was wild. It was wild, but I was never really that much of a degenerate, but
and you kind of tunnel visioned your goals, and as soon as you got, I'm not going to say completely what you wanted, but you got into USC, that's what you've always wanted. So you're attending there, you're there, you're playing on, you're on the team. So you're a Trojan, you're achieving all these things. So you don't want to backpedal either. So you're going to keep tunnel visioning the things that helped you get to that point.
No. And that's the thing too. There is I had so much respect for where I got, meaning when I got to USC, I just became so happy that I was there, that I wasn't going to really do anything to jeopardize my standing there. Because there were times where these kids, certain kids, I won't mention names, but whom I played at SC with, would really, really get under my skin. And they'd be like, Chris, why don't you just swing on this kid? And I'm thinking, I worked way too hard to get here, to get kicked off because of some mercurial kind of drive, So I everyone's like, dude, there's this kid who just kept fucking sticking me. And I was just thinking to myself, I worked way too hard to get here, and I'm not going to get into fucking Coach Helton's office and have him say, Bubba, you're off the squad. I was not going to do that. Mm-hmm. So and I'm pretty I find myself a very logical person, and I don't really negative react off of emotions like some people do. Mm-hmm. It takes let me put it this way, there's an adage, very slow to anger. My fuse is very long, but my reaction to someone continually fucking poking at me won't be okay, just let me swing on you. I'm gonna get to where I need to go and then consider that tie cut off if you ever need something ever again.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, I'm going to get to where I need to go in spite of you. And then, hey, you hit me up for this. Hey, Austin, hey, Chris, I'm so happy that you got to SC. Can I get tickets to the game? That message is getting left on red. You know, 5 years down the 5 years down the road, like, ahead of whatever I'm doing, and it's like, hey, Chris, can you me? It's like, you know, the answer is going to be no. Why'd you ask? Like, that kind of stuff.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So it's like, it's one of those things where it's like, you kind of got to make you give people enough rope to hang themselves. That's the best way to put it.
So Chris, I gotta ask you, since you started playing baseball and now you're playing football, what is your heart more set on, you think, in terms of favorite sport?
I will. Here's what I'll always say, because I've been asked this question a few times. I will always say that across the board, baseball is a better sport, at least as far as I'm concerned. I will say that because there's a few reasons. Obviously, I played football at USC for 2 years and 2.5 years at USC, then 1 full year in high school. I've had 2 knee surgeries in that time.
Jesus.
You know, I mean, so the injury aspect's obviously part of it, you know, but
Yeah.
you kind of get over that, you know, but I was just squatting at the gym the other day, and I'm at this hotel in Arizona called the Scottsdale Resort, and they kind of plugged me because they have to plug me because I have an interview or a show I'm going on later today. And they hooked me up with this awesome ballroom. They're really cool, and anybody who's in Arizona and Scottsdale should check them out. But I drove out from LA last night, and my knee has been on fucking fire the last 2 days ever since I squatted. Like, I shit you not, it is so sore. I'm extending it right now, and I hear clicks. So the injury aspect is very important considering football.
That knee injury is a lingering thing then.
Oh yeah, I'm moving to Miami next month, so I'm gonna have I've already got I've got a place I'm gonna be working with down there already.
Nice,
but,
beautiful.
Yeah, but dude, the other aspect of baseball comparatively to football is like, there are very few things that are as serene, tranquil. Like, there's almost like a dopamine rush when you're running a route on a beautiful day at USC and you see the ball in the air, watch it and track it all the way into your hands and just run up the field. So that's where I say football's got baseball beat for sure.
Yeah.
Across the board, I think baseball's a better like longevity sport, but I will tell you what, I mean, warming up in the Coliseum in front of 60,000 people, trying to like snagging balls with one hand, like you're about to play like Utah. Like those.
It's a buzz.
Those are peak experiences that baseball never could offer you.
Anxiety's just rolling through the veins.
Oh my, no, dude. I say this a lot, and there was the first time I ran out of the tunnel at the Coliseum. There's this. So the way it works is that there's obviously that big like kind of ramp that you run down, and there's like the big USC turf, like all cardinal and gold, like all the logos and all like the patches and shit. But then there's like this little section of dirt before you get onto the field. It's almost like imagine like, I think it was when they built the Collie for the Olympics, like they built like a track right there.
Yeah.
So there's like a dirt section right there. And after running down the ramp, I get to the dirt, and I don't remember anything after the dirt until I'm in the other end zone praying. Like, until I'm like thanking God for like even like having this experience, let alone being on the squad. And next thing I know, I have come to right at that point, because I blacked out just from sheer adrenaline for 100 and something yards.
Wow.
It was so crazy. I remember the last thing I remember seeing was looking up at the peristyle, which is that big like Greco thing with the torch on top. I remember seeing the torch right there, and I remember seeing like 5 or 6 individual fireworks just going up right behind it. That was the last thing I remember. And then
That's
next
awesome.
thing you know, I'm like,
That's lit.
no, dude, it was like imagine like you're in a doom buggy like running over like shit, and then you hear like a machine gun right behind you. Like, that's an adrenaline rush. That's adrenaline.
Did you have family there your first game, or
yeah,
everyone there?
So yeah, absolutely. So my mom, my dad, and my brother were there. I invited one other of my friends who actually pitched at UCLA, and and now he just got drafted by the Dodgers, and he's actually in the Dodgers organization right now. He's killing it. But his car broke down, or at least that's the story he told me. And I was hot and bothered by that. I'm like, dude, it's my fucking game. Take an Uber. But like, like it's my first game as a Trojan. So like,
let me shine.
My dad, and my brother. Dude, no, everybody was there. You know, I think my mom flew back to that game. My mom did fly back to that game because she was in Colorado at that time. But no, that was one of the best days of my life too, for sure. It was an amazing day, and everybody was there. Like, it was holy shit. Like, I'm gonna well up just thinking about it.
So
but yeah, no, I remember. You can go on in a sec, but like,
yeah.
I remember coming down off the stairs, like walking into the Coliseum, because we have this tradition called Trojan Walk. So you get on the buses and then you come through like all the fans and all the tailgates. They have this like pathway that leads you from the buses to the Coliseum, like amongst 10,000 people or whoever, like however many people it is, like depending on who's playing, depending how good we are, blah, blah, blah. Like when Reggie and Matt were there and they were like really contending every year, that bitch was so full. You couldn't even see the grass or anything around it, you know?
Yeah.
But back when I was there, it was still popping for sure. But you walk through like the sea of people, you get to the top where the stairs are, and then you go down the stairs and like through the Audi Club, and then you get onto the grass. And I remember walking onto the grass and touching the grass the first time, and walking next to the at the East field goal, and just remember my eyes began to water. Like, it just was such a beautiful time. It was an amazing thing. Praise God for that.
Yeah, man. Like, certain things you just got to sit there and soak up the moment, because it's just one of those moments in your life where you're like, it's maybe one of the only times I experienced this, or I've never experienced anything like this before. So I'm just going to soak it all in.
It was amazing. And the song I was listening to, Best Day Ever by Mac Miller. Like,
R.I.P.
Yeah, rest in peace, Mac Miller. I remember that was the song I was listening to. I just remember like being so happy. But dude, there are a lot of experiences that I see. They're freaking nuts. Like, I've never told this story, but like in the interest of saying things that you'll never ever experience again, let me tell you something. Fall camp is a completely fucking wild beast. It is not like the aspects of the practice itself, which are crazy, but I will tell you what, dorm life with your freaking teammates, it is mental. It is so nuts. And I can talk about any freaking story, but the one I'll mention is on the last night of fall camp, throughout that whole 2 weeks, we were all in like the dorms together. And my group who I was rooming with, I think my receiver coach like put us together because we were all the most laid back guys on our team and in our position group for sure. It was myself, Devin Williams, who plays at Oregon, Munir McLean, who transferred to Utah, and then Tyler Vaughns, who plays with the Colts. So they all put all of us together because we were super laid back. I'm so convinced of that. So throughout that week, they have these situations called the purge. And the purge is probably exactly what it sounds like. It's offense versus defense. And I'll tell you what, you better not be walking around the stairs or anywhere if you're on offense and defense is on the prowl, because they will jump you. And it is it was you have to watch your back. Once it all starts, like, you better not be leaving your room, and you better lock the door, because we had a situation the first night where we left the door unlocked and defense was going after it, and they came in and they just fucking turned our room over. Like, our room, like, couches were turned over, trash was all emptied all over the fucking living room. And it was a disaster. But towards the end, offense got really smart. I shouldn't be saying this, but I'm gonna get in trouble for this one. I'm gonna be honest with you. But there was this time where everyone when the last purge happened, it was like, I hope no one here has had the opportunity to go to prison, but I will say, after watching movies and series and shit like that, imagine like how people are yelling at each other from their cell blocks. Like, that's what it became. Like, the entire side of the building just became everyone jawing at each other because, like, we're gonna get you, blah blah blah, blah. And the entire side of this fucking building is just jawing at each other. And I think the football team only had 4 or 5 floors, and this building's like 11, 12 floors. So all these probably international students are probably having their world rocked right at that point.
Yeah,
And
definitely.
they're probably not like, because that's where the international students stayed. Like I felt very badly for them at that point, because it's probably not a great indication of what the country's like. But what I will say is, especially the school, USC is a very like open, tolerant place. But the thing that I'm trying to mention is that once the offense got smart and started locking their doors and stuff and recognizing when defense was going to come in, defense came up one time. This one kid went and bought an airsoft gun for like a few days before. And then the elevator doors open and he just unloads on these kids. And then that day, just like, that was obviously the last day, and the purge sirens were going around from everyone bringing their speakers out. It was one of the most unbelievably wild, surreal like experiences of my life. And I remember thinking to myself, holy shit, I'm at fall camp at USC and this is what it's like.
This is the real experience.
Yeah, bro, it was wild. It was unbelievable. I never told that story before, and hopefully don't get mad at me for that.
That sounds like chaos.
Is
Dude,
there a position group that's a little bit more fucking sus than the other position groups? Like, are the tight ends a little bit more on the, you know what I'm saying, like the wide receivers, or you got to expose the position groups? You don't got to name names, but
that's a good question. That's a really good question, because I will say that our room was definitely kind of sus. I'll be honest with you. We had some really awesome kids in that room. Like, I made some really, really tight friends from that group. But I will, I'm going to be completely honest and say, there was some real fuckery that went around in the locker room with that group. The DBs were probably I will say, here's the thing, and the receiver saying this about DBs. The DBs definitely kept it a buck in the opposite direction. They were the last person you expect to be with that kind of stuff, and then they were it's tough to say on an aggregate which group was the most sus, because there were individuals in specific groups that kind of were into that stuff. But I will say that I think the receivers probably were the most sus. I'm gonna be honest with you.
Wow.
Throws himself under the bus.
I'm sure there's a lot of tight ends out there that's gonna respect that.
No, I mean, that's the thing. My first year I was a tight end, then I got brought on to play receiver.
Mm-hmm.
And the tight ends were shit. I looked at the roster the other day. I was looking at a picture. One of my kids I played with posted a picture of all the tight ends. And they're 9 or 10 tight ends now. When I was there, it was my first year, it was myself, Daniel, Austin, Eric, and Josh. There were only 5 of us. And then going into my second season, when I got pulled to play receiver, it was myself, Eric, Josh, and then Jude. There were only 4 of us. There were only 4 of us for that spring camp. Then halfway through, I got pulled to play receiver, and then Jude Wolf's really awesome kid. I love Jude. He goes, yeah, Caulk just said, fuck it, I'm gonna go play wide receiver, and left us high and dry. But yeah, no, it was funny. It was funny, but yeah, I mean, I have love for the tight ends for sure, because that was a position that, I'll tell you what, dude, tight ends need more credit where credit. They need credit where credit is due, because they've got to run routes and then try and steal the end on the guy who needs to be blocked. He's 350 and go in the NFL, or 330, whatever it is, or 300. But shit, man, I'll tell you what, tight end is a difficult position.
They got to be a brick wall, and they got to have glue hands at the same time.
Yep.
Dude, I remember I remember getting thrown into the fire my first day at SC. I said, tight end, and I never played tight end before, so they just threw me there because I was bigger, I was bigger in stature, but I was still getting dwarfed by these kids. So I'm 6'3". I was about 210 at the time, and these kids are 6'5", 240. So scout team tight end, that was me. That was my first role. And then you're blocking kids on the first team D who are playing for the Browns now. These kids are or having to come in, go up in the divide, play off the nose, and then go hit a guy who's playing for, the Vikings. It's sickening, especially when you're 100 pounds less than them. You just got to really work on your freaking form, and you really you definitely have an appreciation for what the craft becomes, because it is a grueling job. It is crazy. and you get ripped apart if you don't know what you're doing, especially at USC. Oh my gosh, if you don't know what you're fucking doing.
They've won, baby.
Dude, I'll tell you what, like, there's this one coach who just snapped on kids too. It was hilarious. It's hilarious when you're not the one who's being done to.
Oh yes.
Oh my gosh. But I realized that, like, the names and shit that were like being yelled, I didn't know when I was getting called those names, I was getting like ripped apart, and I was like looking down like, fuck, I feel terrible. But when I was playing receiver and I was out for a play and he'd do it to somebody else, he'd turn around and start laughing. So it wasn't like it was just like pejorative, but it was like a lot of times it was just for shits and gigs.
Yeah.
Is that something you get accustomed to, being called those names when you fuck up?
Yeah.
You just get used to it.
For sure. If you can't play, I mean, let me put it this way. Everyone today, there are a lot of people today who are so overly sensitive, not at USC, but like just in society in general.
Yeah.
And I'm not even like talking like people who disagree with you, but people who don't have any sense of accountability. Those are the kind of people who you really, really want to stay away from. And those kind of people are generally the ones who don't succeed in sports. Because if you fuck up and you're trying to blame somebody else, again, it goes back to the eyes of extreme ownership. And if you have that like mentality of not trying to take accountability or like thinking that you're never wrong, holy shit, you won't last a day in a big program.
Yeah.
I will tell you that for sure. Because if you have that, I've seen guys who do that, and like it gets really ugly, because it goes from like them or the coach wanting to correct them, and then they go back at the coach because they think they're whatever, and it just escalates and escalates and escalates and escalates. And at the end of the day, the coach is always right. So if you can't take correction, or if you can't listen to anybody, then holy shit, not only in life, but especially in sports,
you will not last long.
Fucking rough one. You're in for a rough one. I'll say that.
Yeah. So you're foregoing your senior year.
I forewent it last year with COVID.
It was last year. Okay.
It was one of those deals where I got presented with a pretty awesome opportunity, and like I'm purposely being vague about it because I'm as close to being under NDA as I can be.
Mm-hmm.
So like I was presented with a pretty awesome opportunity, and it just became I got to do one or the other, and it's either play my last year or go into this, and it just became one of those things of like I can't miss it. Like I can't. There's so much value that I've already had as to having walked away and being about a year removed from football. And granted, like it was one of the more tough decisions I've ever had, because like you guys, like I said, I told you guys a little bit about my story and knowing how tough it was to get to SC and how hard I worked to get there.
Yeah.
And just thinking to myself, like, damn, I really, 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 this is the major goal and dream that I've accomplished. And I miss football still. I still miss football. Like going out, running routes, getting ready for a game on Saturday. Are you crazy? Like that's some of the most fun I've had. Like those Wednesday practices, Thursday practices, like no repeat Thursday. You've got shells on or whatever it is, just running routes and making plays, and scout team and special teams. Those are some of the most highly, highly valued memories that I have.
Yeah.
And those were unbelievably fun, especially on home games. But like, it just became the point where you got to make a choice, and the choice that I made, the choice that I made. Do I still miss football? Absolutely. But do I regret my decision? Absolutely not.
Yeah.
So
it's a lot of will to make that decision. Go ahead, man.
Your new opportunity, obviously you're close to an NDA, so you can't really talk about it, but we're obviously going to see this new opportunity unfold for you in the near future, I would assume.
Yeah, very, very soon. Very soon.
Perfect. So we will stay up to date on that, and we'll all know when it happens.
I will gladly come back on the show to discuss it in its entirety when we announce it publicly.
Absolutely, man.
Glad to hear.
So your brother's a pitcher, you said, right?
Yeah, my brother is a pitcher.
Any interest in moving to Toronto or playing for the Blue Jays at any point in his career?
Yeah, you can play with this guy right here.
Yeah, seriously. No, I mean, look, here's the deal with him. With my brother, name's Austin. He's a converted catcher, and he decided to start pitching like a year ago. And I'll tell you what, like, there's a lot of stress on the elbow that comes from pitching to catch or from catching to pitching.
Yep.
But after having had no like formal training or anything like that in pitching, just watching Instagram videos and just working out relentlessly and getting to where he needs to go. The kid was like no form or anything, just sitting there, just fucking boom, boom, just fucking firing this bitch just into the zone. And no training, no nothing. And I think the ceiling is so high for him that I wouldn't count out whoever wants to sign him will inevitably be getting a huge stud when they get him. That may or may not be the Blue Jays. We'll see.
We need him. I'll talk to my guys. Maybe we'll be in touch.
Yeah.
So you got to be coming from a naturally athletic family, especially with being raised by a professional chef mother. That's the dream for one.
You know, it's I do say like my family does have some pretty gifted athletic genes for sure. Like my mom, like we always give her shit, but she like used to show horses a bunch. So like,
Okay.
so it's like, she like try controlling a 2,000-pound animal and see how athletic that is. And I'm like laughing at her the whole time, but it's like, I just give her respect. But my mom's brothers were actually like very athletic too. And I'll talk about my dad in a sec, but my mom's brothers, my uncle Tony, he was a pro triathlete. He ran Ironman like 10 times. He played his highest position placing was like 11th, was going to be like 4th, his other highest one or something like that. And my other uncle, he was an alternate on the Olympic team for rowing for, I don't know. He won the Pan Am Games or something like that. I don't really remember because we didn't really talk to that side of the family that much. But my dad's family, like my dad never really, like he played like high school and stuff like that. My dad was a really awesome tennis player. Like he's still really good. And I think he could have definitely walked onto a program had he been more serious about it. But or shit, he might have gotten a scholarship. I don't know. But nevertheless, my dad was really like into tennis. My dad still is an athlete still, but my dad went to USC too. So that's where like the ties for USC kind of were, whether you want to call it motivation or indoctrination as what people like to refer to it, especially when they're talking about USC. But yeah, he ran the all university track meet all three. My dad transferred from Boulder, but he ran the all university track meet all three years he was there, and he won each time. So my dad used to fly. My dad used to fly back in the day. But no, yeah, I mean, so I would say like there's some fairly gifted athletic genes in there for sure. But it comes like if you don't kind of like put work in to do that, like from the time as long as I can remember, I was always wanting to catch passes in the front yard with my dad, or in front of his bed at our house, like throwing me passes, or going to the baseball field and taking BP on a Saturday afternoon when there's no game. So it's like that kind of stuff, you know. I mean, athletically genes, there are some definite, you know, traces of that for sure. But you know, it just became the passion, you know, whether nature nurture argument, I don't know, but it just with passion and genes, like, you know, it's a real, you can really do a lot with that for sure.
Yeah. So back when you were playing for USC, who's in the headphones? Who's pumping you up before the pregame?
Shit. So in the call, I wasn't on the headphones.
Even in the locker room, who's on the speakers? If you've got the aux.
Drizzy?
Okay. Let me. So, you know, it's a great question. I think there are a few answers to that.
Oh yeah.
Before my tryout at USC, I threw on my beats and started listening to like Skillet, like Crazy, like Dreams and Nightmares by Meek Mill, like all this kind of shit that like fires you the fuck up. But before a game, like a lot of people choose different shit. So some people are like listening to like really, really monotone music. Like a lot of people listen to like Chloe Kai and stuff like that, which is more like ukulele, and a lot of the polys love to do that. And I can understand why, because they don't want to get too hyped or too whatever, you know. But before practice, I would listen to more like low key rap, for instance, like To the Top by Lil Baby, or what's the song called? Yosemite by Travis Scott, like no, like very like that kind of stuff. But right before you pop off and you're about to go into the game, like you run out of the tunnel, it was invariable that Dreams and Nightmares by Meek Mill would come on. So, and that was every time the whole team would get up in the middle of the locker room, that song would be coming up, and everyone would be like, "Used to pray for times like this, to rhyme like this." And it was like the entire team was singing it. It was like, oh my gosh, it was that was surreal too. I'll tell you that for sure. But so it just kind of became like it within like when I was actually having to go out and practice, like when I was practicing, it'd be like more for me. It was more like low key, but that was by design. So if I was like, I knew I wasn't gonna go play on Saturday. Like I was just suiting up, free game All-American, try and make some snags, get some, that kind of stuff. And then you're watching the rest of the game, like whatever you want to listen to. Like I never brought my beats out on the field. They always have the DJ spinning or whatever. So that was always fun.
Beats better run the sponsorship. They want you to wear the headphones on the field.
Yeah, I know. Seriously, how they come with that, I would have probably done it.
So Chris, when you first tore your ACL, did you do it like running a route, like the same as when you fully tore it the second time, or?
Oh, shit! I hate thinking about this, but
sorry,
way
man,
to remind him, George.
Sorry, man, you don't have to if you don't want to. Don't worry.
No. Like, I'll happily answer damn near any question you have. Like,
I'm just curious. That's all.
No. It's a fine question to ask. What I remember is like I was running this post route. I was playing receiver, so I was running a deep post, and I don't like at that point my football knowledge was so limited that I look back on it and I think to myself like that ball was never fucking coming to me. But no shot of the ball coming to me. But I remember running this deep post, and the tight end had like this wheel route or this seam route where they were going to hit him, and the tight end ended up scoring the touchdown. But their field safety, well, I remember what hash the ball was on. I think it was the field safety, was like in pursuit of him, and I was like behind him by like 7 or 8 yards. So, and he saw me because I was trying to go up and like blindside this kid and try and knock him. That was the thing that went through my head. I'm like, I'm gonna try and put this kid on his ass. He catches me. He sees me like 3 yards. I'm like, all right, I still gotta hit him. So I hit him. We lock up, and then I go and because I was coming like my momentum was coming this way, and then he moved and he grabbed me and I grabbed him, and then I planted off my left and twisted on my left. And then I remember feeling like, imagine like a tennis racket string. Imagine a tennis racket string goes boom, or like you pop a guitar string.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I felt.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I felt that, and I didn't know what that was. I'm like, what the hell is this? Tight end ended up scoring though, which was awesome. Even though it was like the first game, which was cool. But I think it was one of his only. I think it was. Yeah. I'm not trying to throw this kid under the bus, but I think it was one of his only touchdowns that year. But no. But anyway, that being said, like that was how I tore it. And then I remember just trying to rehab it, like, and it obviously healed with some scar tissue, but it was like, scar tissue really, like the only way you fix a ligament is with surgery. So like, and the trainer who the high school I went to said it was a quad injury right off the field. I'm like, I don't know how, like my knee hurts, but it's a quad injury. Okay. Whatever. But
yeah.
So, it was just one of those deals where, it just happens, I look back on it, I'm like, there was no way that Chris at that time was going to ever play like I was I had great hands and I still loved playing the end, and like I had certain intangibles but there was no way, like I'm just being completely a buck about it. There's no way that Chris was going to play at USC. I may have had the vision, and all the doubt that I caught from all the kids I went to high school with, like that was directed at that Chris. And I don't blame them for that. Like I really don't, because I look at it, I'm like, holy shit, that kid's not playing there either. Like I don't disagree with them, but where I like butt heads and like talk about this, and where I find like wanting to talk about it to help other kids who've caught doubt from their people who don't believe in them, where I think that your friends should support you is where we're seeing you where you are, but not doubting the work or the person that you are to put the work in to get where you need to go. Yeah. Because where they were wrong is in their assumption that I wasn't going to do what I needed to do to get there. Yeah. Because like I was here, I needed to be here. I was point A, I needed to be at Z. there was a lot of ground that I had to make up. And as opposed to like, yeah, Chris, we're going to support you. Yeah, good for you, dude. Go after it. They're like, there's no way you're walking on at USC. Are you fucking crazy? Like that kind of stuff. They all try to stop it. At the end of the day, like, I laugh at them. I laugh at them now because I think to myself, like, those are the kids who like really, really like those days where I was just getting shit on in the locker room. Those days I just look back at, I'm like, praise God, because those are the days where I think to myself, like, those drove me.
Yeah.
Straight up, man. Yep.
It's facts.
Any standout coaches to you that said anything, gonna stick around with you for life, or any standout coaches to you?
Positive or negative?
let's do both.
Either or.
So let me think. So I can list positive ones for sure.
Mm-hmm.
There were a lot of like people at my high school, like the coaches or whatever, like they'll still, like, for instance, there was this one coach, he was playing at the high school that I went to, like 4 years after, went to some small like D1 school. When I say D1, I mean like not like a real D1,
Yeah.
And then there's this one time where I didn't find out about this until like recently, but this happened like 2 years ago. But I don't have Twitter, but someone sent this tweet to me recently, and there's the cathedral like Twitter football or whatever bullshit account that it was. I don't remember what it was. It might have been their like student section account. Said name a Dons alumni, which is like the Cathedral Dons. Like name a Dons alumni who played sports, something like that. And one kid who I was friends with, who I haven't talked to as much anymore, but like who I still like I think he's a nice kid. He tweeted USC receiver Chris Caulk, and this coach commented back on it, and they said, like, with 2 laughing emojis. I'm like, you guys can't fucking spit it out.
Yeah.
Like, you guys still can't deal with the fact that I proved every one of you motherfuckers wrong. And I think it's the funniest thing ever. I really do. And that tweet was the only one that account didn't like. And I still sit there and laugh because I'm like, you guys proved me wrong. I proved you all wrong. And you guys are, but like, there are a lot of people who like love to laugh at my dreams from my high school or from whatever, but I don't want to just keep going in the negatives, but I'll go switch shift to the positives, because those are the kind of people who you want to surround yourself with.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And enough of the negatives about that, but the positive coaches that I really, really, really admire, for one, and two, highly recommend. First of all, I got to give a shout out to Brett Swain, receiver coach. He is a awesome person. If you're ever in San Diego, he played for the Packers, won a Super Bowl with the Packers, and ended up playing up in Canada for the Rough Riders towards the end of his career.
Okay.
Wow.
Yeah. So he was awesome. Brett's awesome. Knows the game very well. Can teach routes very cleanly. Like, he took me from where I was like, I had all these tools, so to speak, and really developed them and made me into like a receiver that USC could like not bank on, but like they could like look at and be like, okay, he's good enough to play at SC for sure.
Yeah.
So he is one of the huge like people I owe so much gratitude to. I'm blessed that God put me in that position to have reached out to him in that point, and it all worked out very, very well. So Brett Swain, huge plus. Anyone who needs to work with somebody like that, highly recommend him. Second person that I will shout out, I have 3. Second person is the receiver coach at USC named Kerry Colbert. KC played in the NFL, one of the all-time receiving leaders at USC, and by far one of the coolest dudes that I've ever met. He is such an awesome guy, laid back, puts your note, like what makes him so cool is that he really, really wants to help you get where you want to go. And in the receiver room, you have all these awesome quotes from like Kobe or like Dr. J or whoever it was, like written up on this, because the walls are like almost entirely made of like whiteboards. And you have all these like quotes, like you can be an and guy or a but guy. You can be like, there's so many I couldn't even remember them. Like, and you have like people who are like, for instance, he wrote up like Adam Thielen's name on there because he got cut or didn't get offered by a guy named Minnesota State Mankato, which is like a really small I don't even know what division that is, but the point is, like, he would tell you all these things, order for you to help achieve your goals. And I still like think about all those kind of deals. And when I'm like a leader in whatever I end up doing, like I want to have similar like situations like written up on like printed obviously on like walls around the offices and stuff like that. So I think that's a really, really awesome way to remind people how to achieve their goals on a daily basis. But KC is an awesome dude. Highly, any recruit listening to this, freaking happens to be a receiver recruit, KC's the man. And I will always stand by that. Third, and not most certainly not last, Clay Helton. He catches a lot of flack, especially being a head coach at USC and the whole fire Helton shit. Like, that's one of the most frequently asked questions that I get. Like, what do you think about Coach Helton? And like, I don't know if you guys know much about the situation, but it is so consistently like everyone like, oh, fire Helton. A lot of people are like that. I don't see it. I think Clay Helton is one of the best guys that I've ever met. Made my dream come true. I have nothing but good things to say about Coach Helton. And I think that they're about to have a really awesome season. A lot of those people who are talking that shit are going to shut up really quick.
Yeah.
And you, I mean, we can talk about that at the end of the season and see if I was right, but I really, really have high aspirations for this team. At that same time, I really, there's a certain aspect of like differentials of programs that people love to throw at me, meaning like you never went to Bama or never went to Clemson, so you don't know. But I will say like, yeah, you're right. I don't know the difference between a Clay Helton program and an Urban Meyer, Nick Saban program. I don't. But what I will say is like, I grew so much as a person and as a football player while I was at USC that like opportunities are there for you to develop. Like whether you choose to take them, I understand the buck starts and stops with the coach, but I will say that they definitely don't hold back on giving you opportunities to get where you need to go. And it comes back to extreme ownership for sure. Like food's there, workout opportunities are there. If you want to run routes on the field, all you got to do is talk to one of the people. Track field's always open, you know, like you can get there. Like you can get where you need to go, but like
you got to be the one to do it.
Clay makes it very easy for you to get better. I will say that. And when I walked away from the team, I have like he was so proud of me, like moving into this like opportunity that I moved into. He was like, I'm so proud of you, Chris. I really want, I know you're going to be super successful in it. And he was just very, very complimentary to me. And I was very, like, I have nothing but good things to say about Coach Helton.
We won't take up too much more of your time right before we get out of here. Just want your take on the NFL. Who are your favorite players to watch? Who's your favorite team? And what do you think is going to go down this year for Super Bowl?
Good question. So I don't really have a team. I'm gonna be honest with you. And the reason why I don't have a team is because obviously, like I said, like you guys talked about, I grew up in San Diego. I was a Chargers fanatic when I was a kid. Like that, those were the first football games that I went to with my grandma. And I will say this, like I got so disappointed in the Chargers that I was like, I don't know who I'm gonna root for now. Like, but you know, it was one of those deals where I was like in middle school, just distraught at like going 7-7 or whatever, 8-8. Sorry, and it was just a real rough thing for like 11-year-old, 12-year-old, 13-year-old Chris. Anyway, my favorite team was the Saints. I loved the Saints because Mike Thomas was an awesome player, and I'll be honest with you, 41 looked really awesome on Kamara, and I was 41, and I was like, all right, Saints are my squad. You know, I was rocking with the Saints for a little bit, but as it became more and more like down the line, a lot of my friends who play in the NFL now, like I really want them to do well more so than the team. So like one of my buddies plays for the Colts, and is Michael Pittman. If the Colts are playing like the Vikings, whoever they're playing, like I'm gonna root for the Colts. You know, it's more like game by game kind of basis for me.
Yeah.
But there are some hype teams that I really like. I really like the Titans. And that's not just because like I think the receivers are really good, but like I've liked them from top to bottom. I think like the whole brand of what the Titans are is really dope. Like I was in Nashville last year, and I drove by Nissan Stadium, just drove around it. It's like right on the river, Nashville, like Broadway, like right across the street. Like it's dope. It's dope. And another reason too is like right after surgery, and just wanted to envision myself playing at USC, I watched Julio Jones. That was the guy who I watched, who I wanted to emulate in my routes. Obviously, Julio went to Bama, but he was the person who I like. He was 6'3". He got to he was 225 at the time. I'm like, okay, that was my goal, 6'3", 225, and I want to run routes and play like Julio. So like I looked at him as a role model for a lot of this stuff. So now he's playing with the Titans too. So I would say that the team I'm most excited to watch this year will be the Titans. But I wonder how long that will last, because like I said, I'm Miami. And one of my friends who I played at SC with, named Austin Jackson, first round pick.
Austin Jackson,
plays for the Dolphins.
OT baby, let's go. I'm a big Finns fan.
Austin. Really?
Yeah.
So yeah, no, I'm really looking at the Dolphins too. So once I get it'll be, I'm sure, like once I get caught up in the ambiance of going and like setting it up and like chilling in the box at Hard Rock Stadium, I'm sure it'll be very, very difficult to not call them my favorite team. But yeah, no. Compliment. Yeah. What I will say, this very complimentary to Austin Jackson. He is the absolute man. I don't know if like y'all know what he really went through with his sister. His sister had some like really rare disease, and he ended up being a bone marrow like donor for her.
Wow.
Fucking kudos to him. He is I remember first round player and a first round guy. All sorts of props to Austin. All sorts of props to that guy.
Yeah.
Wow.
So, and any boys on the Steelers? I gotta ask. Any boys on the Steelers in the organization? Anybody I gotta contact here soon? That's not a good sign.
He's going through memory lane here.
That's not a good sign.
There was one kid who I knew who got signed by the Steelers last year or 2 years ago. I don't think he's still with the organization. Obviously, people like, oh, Juju. I'm like, I wasn't there when Juju was at USC. So, nobody on the Steelers. You know, nobody.
Cowboys.
On the
Cowboys.
Hold on.
God damn, man. We need to start cheering for Miami, man.
Yeah, dude. I was hoping I had somebody, because one of my buddies was talking to the Cowboys right after he didn't get drafted, and that's the only tie that I have with Dallas right now, was that. And I mean, other than watching Hard Knocks, I've got nobody on fucking Cowboys right now. I know it's a disappointing thing. I see you're rocking 21 in the background right now. So
my guy right there, man. First round pick in my fantasy draft, but it's comeback season. Comeback season for him.
Who is? If you guys are Lions fans, Amon Ra. Bills fans, OG. Colts fans got Michael. Shit, I don't know who else. Got a lot of Mike. Obviously, Dolphins, Austin. You know, but.
You covered all of our boys' teams except for me and Jordan here.
Yeah,
got everyone except me.
Oh shit!
No, I go down to.
It's all right, man.
I go down to Miami every year. I couldn't last year because of the whole COVID shit. So yeah, I'm going this year in January.
Dude, hit me up while you're down there, bro. Like,
all right,
I'll be down there starting in October.
Okay.
And I was down in Miami last October, and because we were looking for places like to base everything out of. Obviously, Miami's a very favorable, or Florida's a very favorable tax state.
Absolutely.
There's no state income tax in Florida.
Mm-hmm.
So we were looking at places, and Florida happened to be one of them. And I remember getting off the plane and texting my dad, because he was down there at the same time, because we were obviously going. But we all took, my brother, my dad, and I all took different flights.
Okay.
So I flew, and we all kind of timed it differently. But I remember texting my dad the second I got off the flight, and in my Uber, I was like, I have a really, really good feeling about this place, because it was just awesome. I love that city so much, and I love it too. To go back. And that's the thing, like, dude, it really is one of those things. Miami, it's like has that notion and preconceived notion that like it's just a crazy party city, which it is. But like, I'm straight edge and I don't party. Like, I still absolutely love the city. Just like the vibe, the culture. Like, there's so many things down there, like food. Just being down there, I just felt so much better while I was down there comparatively. But I love LA to death. Like, I really do love LA. But Miami and LA, like splitting time between those two places will not be that bad.
No, you're gonna be set, brother.
See, you're used to the heat though. I feel like that's got something to do with it. If I go down to Miami, man, that shit is way too hot for me. That shit is humidity out the ass. I can't even be dealing with that. I come from -30 in the winter, and then we go right to +30 in the summer. So,
oh shit, no, dude, that's the thing with humidity. Humidity can be a bitch down there for sure.
How is playing in the heat? That's got to be something.
It's. Shit, I'm gonna have to expose myself. There were times where, I'm gonna be honest with you. So the way that SC, like the practice field works, is that there's this massive building on the right outside of the practice field. So SC's got like a 50-yard practice field going like this, and then perpendicular, it's got a long 100-yard regular practice field, and then you've got all the other bullshit over there. But where we would practice scout team and first team D, what we would do is we'd be on the turf field, and after a certain point in the year, the sun would set and then the building would cover the field, meaning like the shadow of the building. And that's why they call it dark side. So like defense would break down on dark side sometimes because we trained on the dark side. But but for like a month or so in your first party, the season for August, I wouldn't wear tights or long sleeves when I was practicing during the summer or in the end of summer, because it would be so damn hot on the dark side. Granted, I probably sound like really soft when I say that, but like you get to the point of where you don't really recognize it. But like if you're standing around sometimes, like my legs would get like really hot in my calf area and it'd be really uncomfortable. So I would not wear like tights or anything during that time. So, but when it would get colder, like you kind of just go get jerked out with like long sleeves and tights and all that kind of bullshit that goes with it.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, no, the heat wasn't like that bad. Like it can get hot, and being in full pads, it can be kind of a bitch. You sweat a lot, but once you're playing, you don't recognize it. Like you're just running routes, it's like hot. You gotta make sure you're hydrated for sure, because you don't want to cramp or pass out or any of that thing. But you improvise, adapt, overcome. You just gotta deal with it, deal with the elements.
Last question for me: what's cold to you? What is a cold temperature for you on a game day?
You got to also think of Fahrenheit, right? So he'll do Fahrenheit, and then we'll translate it.
Yep.
So this might be I might be giving you a different answer what you may expect. When I was at junior college, I would go visit my mom in Colorado, and I visit like at that point, like that's where my life began to turn around. Like at that point, like I actually look back on my journey and think about like up until going to Colorado, my life was kind of like this, and then Colorado was the turning point. So Colorado, I visited there in November and December. Like it cost like $48 to get from LA to Denver, and that was the first time I had flown in like 4 years. Like there were a lot of ancillary bullshit that was going on, like But anyway, so part of my journey was training in like seriously cold. And I really, really liked it because I wanted that aspect of like having that mental edge of like, I really went through it with that. Yeah. And I really went through and like battled in all the temperatures. And I'd be like working out in like 6 or 7 inches of snow and like 9 degrees and with a wind chill. So 9 degrees Fahrenheit, that is. So like when it came to like cold weather games, obviously never got that cold playing at SC. And especially in Southern California, you obviously like 50 or 40 would be like the lowest it would be on game day, like at night, especially if you have a late game. Sometimes we kick off at 7:30 and we wouldn't get out of the collie until like 12:30. What gets you is having to stand around a bunch because your hamstrings and all your shit gets super, super tight. But I don't know. I mean, it never really gets that cold. So like the idea of like, and having the perspective of being in like 9-10 degree weather, cold's cold. Like 30, 40,
cold's like, cold for everyone.
So like 30-40 degrees, like it can be kind of a bitch, but like I was running routes at like 9-10 degrees like Fahrenheit, so it wasn't that big of a deal. You just keep your hands warm. That's the important part, because you can tolerate it on the arms and on like the neck and shit, as long as you keep your like hands warm. And that's what I figured, at least. Like once your hands are warm, you're straight. Like, because your fingers like loosen up, like start to go numb first. That's the thing. That's the only thing. Yeah, that was for sure the only reason. Like the only thing that really got me was the hands, and that was in Colorado, especially like diving, making a play, and like you're diving into the snow. I'll tell you what, that'll leave a fucking mark because your fingers are so red and so damn cold that like you slide and they start like bleeding.
Oh,
Yeah.
It's a regular winter around here.
yeah.
Well, Chris, I just want to say thank you so much for coming on here. I feel like we could shoot the shit all night.
Yeah, for sure.
I just
Thank
want
you guys for having me. I truly appreciate it. You know,
yeah,
I mean,
man. Thank you for
it's
coming
good
on.
to
Thank you
talk,
for
yeah.
sharing your story and everything. And thanks for coming and shooting the shit with the boys. This has been episode 23 of Zooming with the Boys, the Chris Caulk story. And I think it's going to be a good one. I think it's going to be our best one yet, boys.
I think so.
Ooh,
I think so too.
awesome.
I think so, man.
Thanks for having me, guys.
You
No
take care.
problem, man.
Thank you. Praise
Good
God
to
for having
talk
me.
to you.
Thank you.